Your basis is already wrong.
Can I say?
Let him finish. Let him finish.
If you're a traitor, you know Wells is innocent. You started this whole thing on Wells and then backed off of it.
Okay, but if you are trying to pin it on me or Bob, you're not finding a traitor tonight, and we need to focus on.
Am I surprised with who has been sent home? Not really. Although he was in the shadows, but he made a mistake of trusting the wrong person. Boston Rob said it before that I will protect you until I don't need you. And so Boston Rob looked at it this way. He decided to, shall I kill someone who is a traitor, or shall I sort of sacrifice somebody so that I am safe, because the traitors will now owe me because I saved one of their own. And he threw Tony under the bus. It's really sad to watch, but hey, what happens when you think you're the master and then the master appears? They should have saved him on day one and then he wouldn't have come back with a vengeance, but they didn't save him on day one. And so now he's back. He's out to look out for himself only because he's already saved you in week one. Dumping or killing, so it's up to you. It is what it is. His reason was justifiable. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing The Traitors, Season 3, Episode 3. So obvious to see that Danielle and Bob, the trans, are not happy at all at finding out that Bob is the fourth traitor. I think the two of them thought they could run Caroline. I think they thought they could bombard her and, get her to do whatever they wanted. So the idea that they have Boston Rob in the mix is something they were not expecting. It's something they were not expecting and something that really threw them off. I think they're very disorganized. I think Bob and Danielle are going to get themselves caught out. I think they watched the show last season with Phaedra and they sort of decided to go against what happened in that season. For them to say, let's go after the housewives, it didn't make sense. Oh, while we're at it, might as well. What happens when you take out all the housewives? Are you going to leave one of them? That way they are banished because they'll say they killed their own people. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense for them to say, oh no, it has to be a wise housewife that will kill. They should have sat back. I love that Rob didn't come in and sort of try and take control. He sat back and watched them. Because at the table, he was watching them just run their mouths for no reason. I think they're trying to go against what the guy from Big Brother did when he was called out by Phaedra, that you haven't said anything all season. Suddenly you're throwing my name in the mix. And I think this is why they were trying to sort of throw names. That way people are not saying, why are you so silent? But what they've done instead is they've actually outed themselves, or they've put themselves in the line of fire for other people, because Phaedra was able to get away without being detected by keeping quiet, just like her counterpart. The problem is the counterpart realized that Phaedra's game was way smarter than his. That's why he decided to out her, but he couldn't get her banished because she got him banished before he did. And sadly for these two, now that Boston Rob is in the mix, they're in trouble. Anyway, they settle on a name, and then in the morning everybody comes down for breakfast and everyone is sort of panicking that who's been killed. Some are sort of speculating that maybe it's Ivor, some are not sure who it is, and surprise, guess who they killed? Ayanna. Why? It doesn't make sense. And for the two people that must have been behind her name, it doesn't make sense, because Caroline was against it. She was adamant that let's not kill a housewife, let's kill someone random. But for Danielle and Bob to be behind Ayanna's killing doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't, and I can't justify that, because Ayanna was not a threat to anyone. She was just happy to be there at that point, unless that was her gameplay. But she was just happy to be there. She wasn't calling out names. She wasn't suspecting anyone. She was just focused on what was going on. And I don't know whether this is why they thought they would do a random kill. I think it's either the producers have decided to get rid of the housewives ASAP, or it's Danielle and Bob who have actually come up with this plan, which doesn't make sense at all. You have Alan come in and lets everybody know that Ayanna was killed by the traitors. And it's like, why would they kill her? It still doesn't make sense, because she was crying that her friend had been banished. So the idea that they would kill someone who was crying about her friends doesn't make... Yes, it's random. It sort of makes people question and scratch their heads. But still, there's no justifiable reason for that. There's no justifiable reason. Ayanna is devastated. Ayan is devastated. She says, why have I been killed? I don't understand. And I don't know how she feels when she finds out who was behind her name being thrown in the mix. I can't wait for the reunion to see what happens there. So once Alan leaves the room, you have people sort of split into little groups where they're sort of discussing their theories on who they think are the traitors. And it's like, this is about to be messy. This really is about to be messy. You have, Caroline is trying to sort of speak to Nikki and the girl from Selling Sunset to sort of try and suss out where they stand, because she's struggling to understand who will listen to her, because she's trying to sort of, I think she's complained that all her life she's struggled because people haven't always listened to her, and so she's at this point whereby she's trying to play this game, but the people she's playing with are not listening to her at all. So she's really sort of looking for people who she can align herself to, people who might actually be able to sort of listen and see where she's coming from. She tries to speak to Crucial and Nikki, but they are not listening to her. You have Jeremiah come and pull her aside and sort of suss her out and tell her that be careful of Danielle, because I think Danielle is a traitor. The way she's moving is a bit messy. And for someone like Caroline, she knows this is the truth. Danielle is a traitor. And then Bob sort of takes the two other girls and they're busy saying, oh, Caroline is batshit crazy. And it's like, she is actually a traitor. Nobody believes she's a traitor because of the way she is. And this is the best person to make a traitor, because they'll never see her coming. They'll never see her coming. You have, Dylan pull people into the other room. He's sort of speaking to them. He said, you want Boston Rob involved in it? I think he's fanboying at Boston Rob, and he's sort of saying he thinks Bob the trans is a traitor because of the fact that he threw out Wells's name and then sat back and sort of watched everybody sort of just self-destruct, which is the truth. And so you have now Boston Rob saying, well, I don't want to have to choose between a traitor and a faithful. And it's like, you know who the traitor is, but you can't call him out, because at the end of the day, then you are outing yourself. That how do you know he's a traitor? So it makes sense that Boston Rob still wants to remain in the shadows. You have some people sort of whisper to Wes that Tony might be a traitor, and Wes, because he's got no one else from the challenge, is looking for an allegiance, is looking for people to sort of align himself with. So he goes to tell Tony that, be mindful, people are suspecting you. I don't think you're a traitor, but people are thinking you might be a traitor, so just be on the lookout. And it's like, oh, it's about to be good. So they get to a fair where there are 4 doors a row, and in each row you have to pick one correct door. The other 3 are incorrect, and you have a balloon that you take with you. Once your balloon has been popped, that's it. And so that game was a bit tricky. It needed a lot of hearing, a lot of good communication, a lot of concentration. And sadly, Bob, I think, has put himself in the line of fire, because he sort of went after Tony, and Tony eventually had to go first. And you had Bob, the drag queen, sort of speaking up. And it's like, why is Bob speaking up? Try and hide yourself amongst the crowd as a traitor. You don't have to be outspoken and be the loudest in the room. Tony went in, he failed, everybody failed. And so it was surprising that Bob Harper, I don't know why he didn't listen, because he went in fourth and still opened the wrong door. And because he said everything became so mixed, he didn't know what was what. And it's like, oh my God, you had Boston Rob and Dylan, at least they went further. They went through the first 2 doors, and then on the 3rd door, they got stuck. Wes went last with Sierra, and they were able to go through the first 3 doors, but on the final door they couldn't find the door to go and get the shield, so theirs was popped, and no one was able to win shields, because apparently there were 2 shields in that sort of maze that people could win. And it's like, oh my God, I really wanted Wes to win a shield, because he's still trying to find his people. He's the only person. Well, he's not the only cast member from his show, but from gaming shows, I think he's the only person there. The other reality TV stars, they're not gamers, so they don't know any different. They just, are used to drama. They're not used to sort of gameplay. And so everyone is upset because nobody won. Tony's upset because he feels he was sabotaged by Bob H, because he was forced to go first, even though he didn't want to go first. Nobody wanted to go first, because they felt that by going first, then you're putting yourself in harm's way, because you're the one who's sort of creating a way for everybody else. They get back to the castle and it's chaos, because even in the cars names were already being floated. They're floating two of the traitors because those two of the traitors are the loudest, and sadly I don't know why people don't align. If names have been thrown out there, go with those names. Don't run and tattletale or whatever, because you had Danielle being brought up, you had Bob the drag queen being brought up, and so some of Bob's friends are sort of thinking it might be Tony, and then you have Chriselle and Nikki are being told that it might be Bob H, and they're saying no, Bob H is not a traitor, we don't believe it, and it's like, oh my god, this is messy. So when they get back, you have people sort of speaking. Dylan is speaking to Wes and Derek, and he's sort of saying, oh well, I have two names, I have Danielle, and he mentioned somebody else, and it's like he's on the right path to one of them. So he was saying he's going to float one name. If that doesn't play, then he'll float the other. And Wes was saying, you need to pick one and ride with it as long as you know you're right. Don't be throwing names out there if you're not sure. I am going to go, game by game and just see how it goes. I'd rather stay in the shadows. And this is how Wes is going to outsmart all of them, and everyone is going to be surprised at how come a challenger has won this when he was on his own, unless they take him out because of what happened with the challenges from last season. You then have, Derek be told that Bob drag queen, we think, is a traitor. And he runs to tell Bob, and is like, why are you running to tell him? Because Bob the drag queen has already run to tell Danielle that your name is being floated out there. And so now they're seething because they know their names are out there. And I think it's a good technique to sort of put somebody's name out there, in the sense that if they are the traitor, they're not going to kill you, because if they kill you, then everybody's going to know they're the traitor because they killed you. So I can't wait to see what happens at the round table. So you then have everybody gather at the round table, and you knew it was going to be messy because names were being floated. Already two traitors are in the line of fire. It's just Jeremy doesn't want to speak up, whereas you have Dylan, who is adamant. He knows that Bob the drag queen is a traitor, and anyone who's watching knows that Bob the drag queen is a traitor. So they sit down and no one wants to speak up first, until Dylan says, okay, I'll go first. And it reveals that Wells' name was thrown in the mix by Bob the drag queen, and then Bob the drag queen sat back and watched everybody else, like carnivores, sort of pull him apart, and no one wanted to sort of say his name at all. And this is why they're in the situation that they're in. You have, Robin is sitting next to Bob, the drag queen. She's sort of saying, no, he's not a traitor, and it's like, how do you know? You can't trust someone 100%. Boston Rob is evident that you can't trust someone 100%. The fact that they went from Bob the drag queen to suddenly end up at Tony didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense. Yes, Tony to try and throw Bob H under the bus was too late, because at the end of the day, Bob H is too innocent looking, and he's got people that would never want to throw him under the bus because they sort of align with him. And so eventually they got to voting, and Tony didn't see it coming. I think a lot of people were convinced once Boston Rob spoke that, I gave you my shield, but he hasn't spoken to me since I gave you my shield, which is a mistake on Tony's part. At least he could have gone to Boston Rob and said to Boston Rob, thank you very much for saving me, I really appreciate you, or something. But the fact that he didn't say anything, this is why he was dumped. It was really sad. And you could see he was crying. He was devastated because he never expected himself to be dumped this way. And he felt betrayed by Boston Rob. But then at the end of the day, Boston Rob is playing his own game. He has to do what's good for his game. I like the fact that when he called Bob a sellout, Bob sat back and said to everyone else, how am I a sellout? I gave him my shield and he didn't talk to me after I gave him my shield. So what does that mean? What does that mean? And everybody just went, okay, it is what it is. Everybody goes to sort of the lounge areas just to sit around and talk. And Dylan is still adamant that Bob the drag queen is a traitor. He still insists, and he is right to insist that he's a traitor. And so I wish everybody else would listen to him. People are still throwing out names. I'm surprised no one spoke about Boston Rob and the fact that the person he was aligned to has gone home. Or maybe they're too afraid to say anything. I don't know. Or maybe, the show can't afford to lose Boston Rob at this point, because if they lose Boston Rob, what do they have? Wes has no power. I wish they would kill a traitor. I really do. Anyway, so the traitors then receive an envelope to say you have to write down 3 names that will put in coffins, and then one will have a nail put on it, and that's it. You can choose a traitor. And so the four of you have to meet up and you have to agree on who to kill. And it's like, oh my God, it's about to be messy. You have Caroline wandering around the whole castle, and it's like, Caroline, sit down. Danielle is wandering around the castle as well. They're trying to sort of meet up until eventually they sort of meet up in the library. And now they're discussing who to kill. And it's like, you can't kill someone who's named you, because then it's going to be so obvious that you are the person or you are the traitor. Because if someone was calling you out, why would you want to kill them? For Danielle to say she wants to kill, Jeremy, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. He's already called you out. If you kill him, everybody's going to suspect you and they're going to call you at the next round table and you're going to be killed. Then you had Bob and sort of Danielle insisting that, oh, we'll get Caroline to go into one of the other coffins. And it's like, why do you treat her like, she's your idiot? This is how, Phaedra was underestimated on their season, and she ended up being the traitor that was left behind, and all the other traitors were killed because people underestimated her. Caroline plays on being dumb. This is why she never gets in trouble, because people just assume that that's just Caroline being away with the fairies, when she's actually got better gameplay than all of you sitting at the table. So it's really sad that they sort of treat her like, she's nothing, when she is actually a good game player. So they write down the three names, and they were so loud. I don't know whether they were loud or whether it was just the producers and the editing making it seem like they were that loud, because I don't understand why they would be that loud. I like the fact that Rob told them that, no, we cannot kill Caroline, because I think to Rob, he sees Caroline as a number. And so if he has to be left in that torrent with those two, he would rather be with Caroline, and he would rather, I think they should make Wes a traitor. I think Wes and Boston Rob would run this castle. They would kill people and people would never suss them out. That's my opinion. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 2. Bye guys.